back. Hello, welcome back. Today's topic is about Noordshua Railway CORR. For a Noordshua, de Burhan Railway development concept, the most useful table is to show each warda, its approximate relationship to de Burhan, the proposed feeder connection, and the eventual port corridors. The Noordshua Investment Institute currently lists many of these areas and gives their approximate positions relative to de Burhan. Noordshua zone in the central Ethiopia, region of Ethiopia, the main administrative areas, wardas, include No. Noordshua, Amhara, Warda/Area 1 Ankover 2 Basin of Waranda 3 Bearhead 4 Efratna Gidim 5 Kuet 6 Men's Garo Mitter 7 Men's Lalo Mitter 8 Men's Mama Mitter 9 Men's Kaya Gabriel 10 Men's Wajra 11 Mortna Jairu 12 Mohana Wadera 13 Tarmaver 14 Shuarobit area 15 Dabur Burhan area. Important, administrative boundaries and names in Amhara have changed over time, and some newer administrative structures may differ from older Noordshua lists. The Regional Investment Institute specifically identifies agro-processing, agriculture, textiles, construction inputs, wood/metal processing and manufacturing as opportunities across Noordshua wardas. Port distance concept. For a feasibility study, I would use Dabur Burhan as the central logistics hub, rather than attempting to connect every warda directly to the railway. Noordshua wardas downward arrow road feeder, 200 plus km Dabur Burhan logistics/dry port downward arrow Addis/Shager downward arrow Adama downward arrow Awash rightward arrow Miso rightward arrow Dire Dawa down left arrow downward arrow down right arrow Djibouti Ayesha rightward arrow Berbera Moyle rightward arrow Kenya. The Berbera alternative is particularly interesting because Ethiopia's investment documentation identifies a 310 kilometers Ayesha, Berbera standard gauge railway, estimated at $1.5 billion, connecting to the Addis, Djibouti railway. 4. The next stage, the most useful feasibility table would be a 22-row matrix with warda rightward arrow population rightward arrow agricultural production rightward arrow livestock rightward arrow industrial cargo rightward arrow Dabur Burhan terminal rightward arrow rail km rightward arrow Djibouti km rightward arrow Berbera km rightward arrow Lamu/Mombasa km rightward arrow estimated annual tons rightward arrow estimated railway revenue. That would turn this into a preliminary Noordshua railway investment/business case. Thank you. See you soon. Hello, welcome back. Hello, welcome back. Today's topic is about Noordshua Railway CORR. One important correction: Port Sudan has a documented Ethiopia, Sudan SGR proposal, while Assab and Massawa should currently be treated as proposed/strategic corridors rather than existing railway connections. Ethiopia's Transport Master Plan identifies links to both Eritrean ports and Port Sudan as external port connections. Noordshua/Dabur Burhan multi-port railway concept. No. Corridor from Dabur Burhan. Main route approximate. Distance from Dabur Burhan *. New railway requirement destination port. 1 Djibouti corridor Dabur Burhan rightward arrow Addis/Shager rightward arrow Adama rightward arrow Awash rightward arrow Miso rightward arrow Dire Dawa rightward arrow Djibouti. 850, 900 km. Djibouti preliminary strategic capex $1. 0.3, 2.0 BN mainly Dabur Burhan, Adama connection to Berbera corridor Dabur Burhan rightward arrow Addis rightward arrow Adama rightward arrow Awash rightward arrow Dire Dawa rightward arrow Ayesha rightward arrow Berbera 1,000, 1,100 km Berbera/Somaliland $2.8, 3.5 BN Dabur Burhan Adama plus Ayesha Berbera. 3 Port Sudan corridor Dabur Burhan rightward arrow Addis rightward arrow Awash rightward arrow Kombolka rightward arrow Woldia rightward arrow Werder rightward arrow Gondar rightward arrow Medema rightward arrow Galabat rightward arrow Gadarif rightward arrow Kazala rightward arrow Q rightward arrow Port Sudan. 1,600, 1,800 km large new Ethiopia Sudan SGR Port Sudan $6, 9 BN *4 Ma. Sawa corridor Dabur Burhan rightward arrow Addis rightward arrow Adama rightward arrow Awash rightward arrow Kombolka rightward arrow Woldia rightward arrow Mikel rightward arrow Eritrea rightward arrow Massawa 1,000, 1,200 km major new northern railway plus Eritrean connection Massawa $4, 7 BN *5 Assab. Corridor Dabur Burhan rightward arrow Addis rightward arrow Adama rightward arrow Awash rightward arrow Simura rightward arrow Afar rightward arrow Assab 800, 900 km new railway through Afar to Eritrea Assab $3, 5 BN *6, Lama corner. Rider Dabur Burhan rightward arrow Addis rightward arrow Adama rightward arrow Hawassa rightward arrow Kinso rightward arrow Moyle rightward arrow Igiala rightward arrow Lama 1,500, 1,800 km major Ethiopia Kenya railway Lamu $5, 8 BN asterisk 7 Mombasa CORR. Eider Debre Burhan rightward arrow Addis rightward arrow Adama rightward arrow Hawassa rightward arrow Kinso rightward arrow Moyle rightward arrow Nairobi rightward arrow Mombasa 1,800, 2,100 km Major Ethiopia Kenya Railway Mombasa US $6, 10 BN asterisk asterisk These are corridor level planning distances, not surveyed railway alignments. Indicative pre-feasibility allowances, not current construction bids. Terrain, bridges, tunnels, border infrastructure, electrification and rolling stock can substantially change the final cost. The particularly in Port Sudan route there is a much stronger basis for the Port Sudan estimate than for Assab/Misawa because Ethiopia and Sudan have already undertaken an SGR feasibility program. The documented route is Addis Ababa rightward arrow Awash. Rightward arrow Kombolka rightward arrow Woldia rightward arrow Werder rightward arrow Gondar rightward arrow Medema rightward arrow Galabat rightward arrow Gadarif rightward arrow Kazala rightward arrow Ki rightward arrow Port Sudan. The earlier feasibility documentation gives approximately 1,522 kilometers total, with about 594 kilometers in Ethiopia and 918 kilometers in Sudan. A newer AFDB project description gives 1,512 kilometers, so for a pre-feasibility table I would use 1,500 km rather than pretending the alignment is fixed. North Shua Collection Network North Shua Area Collection Point Main Cargo Main Preferred Ports 1, Debre Burhan Logistics Terminal Industry, Textiles, Grain, Livestock All 2, Basin Awarana Debre Burhan Grain, Dairy, Livestock Djibouti/Berbera 3, Angolela and Terra Debre Burhan Grain, Livestock Djibouti/Berbera 4, Asagir Debre Burhan Grain, Livestock, Construction Materials Djibouti/Berbera 5, Tarmaver Debre Burhan Agriculture, Livestock Djibouti/Berbera 6, Mohana Wadera Debre Burhan/Shuarobit Agriculture, Livestock Djibouti/Berbera 7, Morat Najairu Debre Burhan Grain, Livestock Djibouti/Berbera 8, Puet/Shuarobit Grain, Livestock, Vegetables Djibouti/Berbera 9, Ankober Debre Burhan Agriculture, Livestock Djibouti/Berbera 10, Men's Areas Debre Burhan Grain, Livestock, Honey, Dairy Port Sudan/Djibouti 11, Mita Warmo Debre Burhan/Northern Feeder Agriculture, Livestock Port Sudan 12, Ansakia Gemsa Shuarobit/Debre Burhan Grain, Livestock Port Sudan/Djibouti. Thank you. See you soon.